Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Modern Customer Podcast. I'm your host, Blake Morgan. Today, my guest is Ali Cudby, the founder and CEO of Alignment Growth Strategies. Ali is the author of the #1 best-selling book, Keep Your Customers. Today, we're talking about how customer strategy has never mattered more than it does now, despite what's happening out there in the economy and the broader political landscape. Customer experience should always be the #1 focus. And Ali has had a variety of very relevant experiences to our audience. She graduated from business school at Wharton, and her first job was working in governance for the New York Times. She's held a variety of customer experience roles, even spending time developing customer strategy for the lingerie industry. We talk about ROI, customer experience, and how to create that customer-centric culture, and much more. Please enjoy Ali Cudby. Hi, Ali. Welcome to the Modern Customer Podcast. You're in Boston today. How's your day going so far?
So far, so good. It's spring has sprung finally, which is great.
I am a little jealous of your giant. Is that like a chocolate lab behind you? So cute.
Yeah, thank you. That's one of several, so hopefully they won't be making an appearance today.
Yeah, I'm a big dog person. I just feel like everyone should have a dog laying around their office while they work. Like they're so good for the vibe, I think.
A
That's
hundred
me.
percent, 100%.
All right. So, Ali, for those that don't know you, I mean, you've had a really interesting career. Let's just go back to the beginning. Seems like you were in advertising, working at the New York Times. I mean, tell us, how did you get into that? How did that get started?
So, not so much advertising, but yes, the New York Times. I started there after I graduated from business school and was in their corporate strategy group, and which kind of acted like a internal consulting group for the company, and really launched my career in customer loyalty and retention. Even though we were looking at the entire company, I got put on this project at the call center, and in looking at what was going on in the call center, I had this light bulb moment that when you give your team a really clear path to success, it transforms outcomes for customers. And so that's where all of this began.
Yeah, it's amazing how people in our space, there's just an aha moment of like, oh my gosh, like this is so interesting. I never thought about customers and customer service, but there's a whole world here. Um, and so throughout that experience, then you had more experiences, obviously keeping you focused on customer strategy. I mean, what has been the common theme or thread for you in all of your time focusing on customer experience?
I think that it's sort of counterintuitive. But if I look at all of the experiences in all of the industries that I've worked in, the thing that rings the most consistently and the most true is that when you make people feel seen, heard, and valued, you create better customer relationships, and that makes people want to stay longer. And in today's world of tech and low touch, no touch, PLG, like whatever it is, we're losing that humanity sometimes in our customer relationships. And you can have a very tech driven environment and still make people feel valued.
Yeah. And so what is PLG though, Ali? I don't know what that is.
Oh, sorry. Sorry to get into acronym land, product led growth. So that's the
Oh,
world
I
in
see.
which you don't really need help. It's the product that, does it for you.
I see. I see. Okay, understood. And so you've written a new book recently. Can you talk about the book and talk about your mint methodology that your work is framed around?
Sure. So the book is called Keep Your Customers and is focused on, just that. Like once you get a customer in the door, what is it that you need to do in order to make sure that they stay with you for the long term and grow deeper into your products and services? And a big part of that is what I call the Mint method. And it's called the Mint method because the company is called Align Mint Growth Strategy. So that's why that. But
Cute.
it's a
I like
four
that.
thank you. So it's a four-step process. And of course, it's an acronym. So the M is stands for make a bullseye. The bullseye is a concept that I really dug into when I was researching the book. And essentially, it is a mission statement on behalf of your customers. So many people in companies, they create a mission or a vision or values or all of the above on behalf of the company, and they don't articulate who they really want to be on behalf of their customers. So the bullseye is a process that you go through to identify a unique phrase, a unique statement for your company that everybody can use as a touchstone for the customer experience. And when you have that, it really makes the entire customer experience sort of fall into place differently. So then
Yeah.
I is identify your ideal customers. Again, also, when you're really clear about who you're serving, it makes it a lot easier to do everything from frame marketing messages, identify what the next product extension is going to be, and serve customers to an even deeper level. Then the N is to navigate your customer journey, because when you are clear about what steps a customer goes through while they're using your products and services, then you can frame out like, okay, what are those moments in that experience where we're either going to have this opportunity to build loyalty or break loyalty. And once you're clear on what those moments are, and they differ from industry to industry, then you can move to the T, which is transform your outcomes with playbooks. And the playbooks deliver that really granular, sort of step by step, follow the bouncing ball approach to your team delivering an exceptional customer experience. You want to hire good people, you want them to have good instincts, but you don't want to have to rely on those instincts for them to make decisions about the customer experience. You want a company way of doing things, and that's what playbooks deliver.
Ali, that's awesome. I love these easy to remember like acronyms. I use them a lot too. It's just people need simple with customer strategy because what I find so interesting, and you and I do similar work writing books and everything, is like you can take something like Mint, give it to 100 different companies, and you will have such different outcomes and they're endlessly interesting. What are some of the outcomes that you've seen in working with customers and doing use cases on Mint?
Yeah. So one company that I was working with, an ed tech company, they really dug into their bullseye experience. So it's an ed tech company. What they do is they take a very unique approach to certifying math teachers because there's a shortage of math teachers in the country and they're working to fix that. And a lot of their curriculum is based on this idea of growth mindset. And in growth mindset, you never say, I can't do that. You say, I can't do that yet. And so we
Okay, I
created
like
this
that.
bullseye. Yeah, exactly. Right. It really changes the outcome or the way that you think about it when you're not saying, oh, I can't. It's just, I can't yet. And so we came up with this bullseye, which sounds really simple now, but it took a lot of work to come up with that perfect phrase. And the phrase was embrace the yet. And so everything that they did in terms of the customer experience was based on this idea of embracing the concept of yet, embracing the things that you're learning how to do. And how do you get to a better outcome? And they even took it one step further and they created a mascot, which was the Yeti. And then they made the Yeti live on a mountain. And there were all of these training metaphors that they used with their teachers about getting from base camp to the summit. It was a lot of fun and became the basis of their culture. And what was really cool about it was that everybody enjoyed, like the Yeti was, like I said, it was fun. They actually made a plushie, a Yeti plushie, and all of the teachers candidates got a plushie, and they gave them ways to use the plushie in the classroom even. So it had all of these different like sort of legs for its use. And anytime there was a question, especially a customer facing question inside the company, they could always sort of sit back and say, okay, well, what's the yet here? What's the thing that we just need to overcome in order to get to a better outcome. So it became infused into the entire rest of their, those steps in terms of identifying the ideal customers and the journey and the playbooks. That concept of embrace the yet became a part of it, across the board.
So, in thinking about cultures, do you see, Ali, a big difference in a culture at a smaller company? Like what I would imagine the client you're talking about is not a huge company. Maybe I'm wrong, but then like I used to work at Intel and I can't imagine just going in there and being and thinking, we're just gonna change the culture. Here we go. We're gonna like snap of the fingers. It just to me seems really hard to change a big established company's culture. Any thoughts on how culture can change according to size? Does it matter how big or small you are?
It matters, but it's not impossible. So I also did one of these bullseye activities and projects with a really big medical devices company, and they have thousands of employees across lots and lots of different countries. And in fact, some of the materials had to be translated into like 9 languages. And they were so dedicated to making sure that this bullseye message became the foundation of their customer experience that we created this workshop and rolled it out to all of their employees across the world. And it included a game and all of these really fun aspects which allowed people to sort of enjoy the process of learning. But it was driven by the people at the top. The CEO was dedicated to ensuring that customer experience became an important part of this company, of this division. And so you can do it at the enterprise level, but it takes a lot of resources and dedication. It's for sure easier to make cultural change at a smaller company.
Okay, got it. So I love that. So when you have a client like a CEO that is full speed going toward this goal, obviously it's much easier than if the C-level executives aren't on board. What do you think it takes to create a winning customer centric culture? What are some of the tenets of that customer centric culture that so many companies say they want, but very few companies, in my opinion, actually have?
Yeah. I think the reason that it is a barrier for a lot of companies is because customer experience is inherently cross functional. If you think about it, you have to be consistent from your marketing messages to the way that your sales team interacts to the way that your technology or implementation teams are engaging. And of course, it depends on the industry too. But, even billing, so if there's so many different places inside a company where the experience can fall short. And so and a lot of times in companies, it has to rise to a level where somebody is looking out cross functionally and saying, okay, this is something that's important, we need to make this happen. If you just have a department saying, hey, we need to make customer centricity a thing, then they don't have the influence or authority to be able to really make it stick inside the company. So excellent customer experiences is inherently cross-functional.
And I'm curious, there's so much happening in the world right now, Ali, with the economy, with politics. It just feels like there's a lot of uncertainty. We used to talk about uncertainty post COVID. Now it just feels like we're on a whole nother level. What kinds of things are you seeing with your clients out there in the industry? Has spend on customer experience programs gone up, gone down, or stayed the same?
In a lot of companies, people are tightening their belts. And what fascinates me is that they'll continue to invest in front end sales. But they'll sort of tighten when it comes to the customer experience. And as far as the numbers go and hitting your revenue targets, it's really the opposite. It should be the opposite way. If you bring a customer into your company and you don't have the resources or skill set or whatever it is that you need in order to retain them, then you're not doing anybody a service. You're not doing your own bottom line a service. It's really the retention where you make money as a company. For a lot of companies, they don't even customers don't even become profitable until after the first year. So if you bring in a customer and you serve them for a year and you've spent all of this time, energy, and money on, marketing to them and selling to them and serving them, and then they churn after the first year, you've spent all that money at a loss. And so thinking about, okay, where are you making your money as a company? It's really in retention. So yes, I think that there's a little bit of, disconnect there in terms of where companies invest versus where they should.
Yeah, absolutely. It makes sense to me. Do you think there's just a lot of kind of internal stress right now with layoffs? I think there was 250,000 people laid off in Q1 of 2024. Like, just seems like people are just stressed out. And so there's not a lot of thoughtfulness to these, and there's a lot of knee jerk kind of management reactions right now.
I think that's true. I mean, I for sure think people are stressed out. And customer success is in some ways a newer department, which seems kind of weird because there should have always been departments that were dedicated to a customer's success. But, sales is so entrenched. And so when you think about how do you grow, you think about front end sales. And so I think that some of it's just habit from the people that have been leading companies for a while. And I do think that that's starting to change. Stress aside, I think that companies are starting to look at long-term customer value and realize that that's where growth lies.
Yeah, it's interesting. You went to business school and then you're working at the New York Times to with corporate governance, you said, and thinking about revenue and these, overarching themes. A lot of people in our space, they come up through customer service. They didn't go to business school. So I'm always trying to help arm practitioners with business minded strategies. Do you have any advice for customer service practitioners right now that need to think more big picture? They need to advocate for their programs to get more buy in at a time when many C-level want to just cut customer programs?
Yeah, run the numbers. I see sometimes that people are afraid of the math. If you run the numbers of the value of a customer who churns versus the value of a customer who stays, and then even better, a customer who becomes loyal to the brand and starts to refer other people and really dig into the value of all of your products and services, those numbers get pretty eye popping pretty quickly. So in the book, Keep Your Customers, I talk about different kinds of loyal customers, and there are different tiers. And that top tier is what I call a lucrative loyal. And that's a customer who feels invested in their relationship with you. And when you can get to have these lucrative loyal customers, it's not just that they spend a lot with you and that they stay longer, it's that they're telling other people about their good experience with your company. And so that generates a lot of indirect revenue as well as direct revenue. And so, when you start to lay out the numbers for your executive team, it's pretty clear that the back end and retention is really revenue generative.
Would you be able to share, Ali, an example of a time where you helped a client do this and what did it involve?
Sure. So yeah, give me 1 second to think of which one.
I mean, it seems like New York Times, even like like from the beginning, you were already doing this type of work.
Yeah. So I'm not going to
Take
remember.
your time if you want to
No, it's so I
if you
can
want to
tell the
think
story. I'm
about
not
it.
going to remember the numbers, but I'll tell the story. So even going back to the beginning, when I was at the New York Times, it was really fascinating because here we were, this global brand, and yet the customer call center was in a windowless warehouse in New Jersey and everybody else was in Times Square. They just weren't treating those employees as being as valuable. And so and in fact, even at the time, they were paying less than, and it's been a minute, so I feel like I can tell this story. They were paying the call center people less than the Burger King up the street. So as soon as an opportunity
Ooh.
came up, I know, right? As soon as an opportunity came up to flip burgers, people were leaving. And so, when we dug into this and we started seeing that we were getting customer churn when our subscribers were calling the call center and getting a bad experience, then that led us to make different decisions. And of course, one of the first things that we did was bring the pay up so that we weren't paying less than Burger King. We at least wanted to be, the number one payer on the block, right? But it was also really focused on making sure that our employees felt like valued members of the New York Times Company, and that they felt like they mattered inside the company and that their work was important. At the time, a print subscriber was much, much more profitable than a digital subscriber. So this is going back a few years and the numbers have changed a lot, but that was the reality at the time. So every time somebody called into the call center and got frustrated and said, never mind, I'm just going to read the paper online, we went from having that customer be profitable to unprofitable. And so those shifts, focusing on giving a better employee experience so that our employees wanted to deliver a better customer experience, that was transformative for the overall profitability of our customer base. And we did a much better job with retention based on those small shifts. And that's the thing. I think sometimes companies think, oh, customer experience, that sounds complicated. That sounds hard. You're talking about cross-functional, blah, blah, blah,
Mhm.
yikes. And the reality is that small shifts make a big difference. And when you get too complex, you can actually overcook it. And sometimes doing less and doing it consistently beats trying to do something bigger and trying to do something big and complex. You really want to focus on how can we start small and grow from success.
You know, what you're talking about right now, which is an amazing story, by the way, thank you for sharing that with us. It reminds me of what's happening out here in California right now with the minimum wage going up. And it's interesting now with regulation, like some businesses, they're actually like restaurants are going out of business because they can't afford it. Um, I mean, is this a weird time with the pay of customer facing employees and how are businesses, what's a healthy balance between right amount of pay, but also like watching the numbers?
That's always a question that I'm asking when I go into any consulting engagement is, and it's
Yeah.
going to depend upon the financials of that particular company. So, what's the long-term value of a customer and what's the investment that you have to make in order to be able to get them? What's your cost of customer acquisition cost? And, so there's a lot of different dynamics that go into the decision making of how should we design a customer experience that is engaging and right sized for our company. If you're working in a field that has lower margins, then you don't have as much room to offer white glove service. So you have to make sure that you're thinking customer centrically, but you also have to make sure that you're thinking about the company and what's healthy for the company.
I think that's really interesting. What's the most unique type of customer you've ever had as far as like the person you've worked with? Like, has it been the CFO, the CHRO? Like, you would think, oh, I'm going to work with the chief customer officer, I'm guessing.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think that one of the interesting people that I worked with was the head of manufacturing at a company.
Oh,
that
I see.
that
Yes.
was a really interesting one, and it's because that particular company, the manufacturing, also owned the customer experience in some ways. So I didn't
Wait, what type of, what did they manufacture?
So they
Can you tell
manufactured
us?
lingerie. And so there was a there's a reason for this. So I spent a number of years working in the lingerie industry. So you
I was not expecting you to say that. I'm sorry. I just have to.
for a number of years, I owned the the world's leading bra fit training and certification program. And so I worked. I
Wow.
know.
That needs another podcast.
Yeah. When you asked about my career in the beginning, I didn't quite get to this part, but yes, this was sort of a part of my journey, which I loved. And so I worked with a number of lingerie retailers and manufacturers during that chapter of my life.
All the women listening are going, "Thank you so much for
Yeah.
making bras more comfortable."
Yeah. That's a different book.
Yeah. So the head of manufacturing for lingerie, I mean, that's very accurate because a customer experience for someone buying a bra, um, yeah, I mean, a lot of that has to do with the performance of the bra, that it's not cutting into their ribs, let's be honest.
Right. And you're right, it's a different podcast, but women never get good information about how a bra should fit. And it's so important because it's literally the thing that you're wearing next to your skin every day. So, or for many women, it is. So I'm a huge advocate for women getting that information. But what was really interesting, and the reason that this company, Alignment Growth Strategies, was born, was I started that bra fit training and certification company, and literally it was on 6 continents, and never Antarctica, but all the others. And what would happen was that my clients would say, "Oh, Allie, this is amazing. Our customers are crying tears of joy in the fitting room. Thank you." And I would say, "That's so great to hear. Now, what are you doing to make sure that those customers come back to you? What are you doing to make sure that they become loyal?" Because that's what I had done in corporate America before I started this company. And they never had a good answer. They always would say, "Oh, we're just going to keep giving them good bra fittings like you taught us." And I knew that that wasn't enough of an answer. So I started working with these companies and saying, "How can you build a better customer experience?" And one thing led to another, which ultimately led to me founding Alignment Growth Strategies.
I love that. What a unique and compelling story. And I'm so grateful for you because, yeah, I mean, now you just have, as a woman, there's such better options than in the old days. And when I was young, I used to buy the New York Times. I was probably a customer of yours many times over. I used to go to Starbucks on Saturday mornings, buy the chunky New York Times. There was no digital at the time. And I probably wore your bras to work. So thank you so much to
Glad to have served.
half of our listeners are going, TMI, Blake, TMI. All right, well, let's get to the fun. We've already been having fun for a few minutes, but let's get to the fun rapid fire. Are you game for some quick questions,
Sure.
Allie?
Yeah.
All right, Allie. Firstly, what's the most important part of your morning routine?
Coffee.
Oh, second that. What do you do to relax at the end of a hectic day?
I take a walk with my dogs. I have a really great place where I can walk just straight out of my house, and that is the best thing in the world to unwind.
Agreed. What show are you currently streaming?
I just started watching Succession again. I loved it so much the first time that I had to rewatch it. So that's what I'm streaming.
A good idea. What is your idea of perfect happiness?
Can I say my dogs again? No, my husband might take
Yeah.
it. My husband might take offense at that one. my, um, I think that my idea of perfect happiness is a life of adventure. And I think adventure doesn't necessarily mean jumping off of mountains, but always continuing to sort of have fun and learn, have fun and push yourself. Um, yeah.
Super. What is one mental health strategy for managing hard days?
This probably is the dogs, but also, you know, I have a personal mantra, and my personal mantra is I believe me. And sometimes when I have hard days, I just need to remember that the external things that are impacting me um aren't necessarily the reality. And so, by grounding myself and saying, I believe me, it allows me to sort of say, okay, where am I with all of this? And there's either the
Mhm.
stuff that I can do something about, the stuff I can do nothing about, and the stuff that I don't care about. And that I find to be a very helpful and I think healthy way of dealing with stress.
Yeah, we've got to talk about that one more later. I really love that. Okay. What is your favorite type of vacation?
I'm a foodie, so it's definitely gonna be like a food-based travel adventure.
Oh, nice. Okay. And if you could have lunch with anyone dead or alive, who would it be?
God, I think I would have to go with Meryl Streep, and doesn't she seem amazing?
Yeah, oh my gosh. Like, even I would love to have lunch with her character. And what's the one where she plays the editor of Vogue?
Oh, yeah, Devil Wears Prada.
Devil Wears Prada. Like part of me just like really wants to have a really unpleasant lunch with that character. Um, and lastly, if you had to describe your outlook in one quick motto, what would it be?
Ooh, that's a good one. I love that question. You know, it's I think probably, something from, Finding Nemo, like, "Just keep swimming." Yeah, just
Yeah.
yeah, as long as you just gotta
Beautiful.
keep going.
That's right. Keep going. Love that. And if people want to learn more about you or buy a copy of your book, what's the best place to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So you can find the website at alignmint.co, and it is align and then the word mint, like the plant.co. And Keep Your Customers is sold pretty much wherever books are sold. But if you go to keepyourcustomersbook.com, you can download a free excerpt that's a little bit meatier than what you can get from Amazon, and just please come find me on LinkedIn. And when you do come find me on LinkedIn, please let me know that Blake sent you, so that I know to accept your connection request.
Awesome, Allie. Well, thank you so much for being here. I really enjoyed our conversation, whether it's coffee or dogs or, to be honest, bras. Like, we have so much in common. And I've never talked about bras on a podcast, but like, thank God someone brought that important product up for women everywhere. And it's just been a pleasure. I hope you'll come back, and I wish you the best with everything.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's been so great being here.
All of you have been tuning into the Modern Customer Podcast. Until next time. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel or follow me on social media, including Instagram, LinkedIn, X, and more.